Han Sen was not a reckless person, so he wanted to survey the area and approach the situation in as safely as possible. He didn't want to charge in like a buffoon, so he gauged the events from a good distance away. Observing the pursuit made Han Sen really take notice of how unlucky Wang Yuhang was. He didn't know how or why the T-Rex was so determined to catch him. It was as if it had been locked on, and nothing seemed to sway its desire to incinerate the running man. This guy excels at being a party tank. He pulls all the aggro with no effort. Han Sen continued to watch from afar inside. After a period of observation, Han Sen could not espy any weak spots on the creature. Its whole body was covered in red scales, and he could immediately tell how difficult it would be to penetrate them. As soon as he had a clear shot at the monster's eye, he would pull the trigger. Pang! Han Sen fired the Raven bolt across a distance of 50 meters. His aim was impeccable, and it seemed to be a guaranteed hit on the T-Rex. But right before it skewered the monster's eyeball, the creature blinked to shield its eye. The bolt did go in, but the monster's eyelid was thick. The bolt remained lodged in it, not dealing damage to the actual eye itself. The T-Rex's eyelid did not have any scales, and it was evidently weaker than the rest of the body. The creature was knocked back. It roared in pain and looked at Han Sen from across the battlefield. Han Sen started running, and the T-Rex took off after him. He felt as if a giant flamethrower was pulling up behind his bottom, getting closer and closer. The air around him was getting hotter, and the soft fabric of his clothes looked ready to burst into flames. Brother Han, you are a remarkable example of a human being. Your charity is boundless. I almost knew it for a fact that you would not abandon me to the grisly maws of that ferocious monster. Wang Yuheng was touched by the gesture and sung his words of praise from across the battleground. I'm not a nice man, Han Sen responded. See if you can draw its attention once more. I need to see if I can get a few more hits on its eye. With some luck, my luck, we can bring an end to this wretched thing. It is my pleasure to be of aid. Wang Yuheng did not delay in his agreement to act. Han Sen expected Wang Yuheng to summon a bow, or at least a spear to throw at the monster to regain its attention. But randomly, Wang Yuheng merely scrambled to pick up a piece of metal from the smoldering metal shelter, and threw it at the monster. The metal piece plonked against the T-Rex's shiny red scales. The damage dealt equated to that of a tickle. But that was all it took to garner its attention and pull it away from Han Sen. The monster turned to look at Wang Yuheng and took off after him once more. This way, you dumb doggy. I'm over here. Chase me, I taste delightful. Wang Yuheng called at the T-Rex. He even turned around, bent over, and mooned the T-Rex, clobbering his own butt cheeks to get it to follow. He yelled, thick pork rind here, come get your free sample. Wang Yuheng's clothes were mostly in cinders, and Han Sen could see much of his posterior. He danced and slapped his own bottom like a pair of bongos, as Han Sen simply sighed, failing to comprehend the situation in which he found himself. Han Sen looked on hopelessly. He thought to himself, is this guy stupid? All he has to do is attract the T-Rex. Is any of that necessary? Can't he just hit it and run? The T-Rex was incredibly angry. However, it roared to the sky, then brought down a geyser of flames on Wang Yuheng. Half on fire, Wang Yuheng took off running like a lunatic, with the T-Rex back on his heels. Damn, at least it worked well. Han Sen watched with wide eyes, thinking Wang Yuheng had really turned his opinion on him around. Brother Han, I beg that you hasten your move. I am being roasted alive. Wang Yuheng was running as fast as he could, as his hands tried to pat down the flames that were incinerating his bottom. Hold on, little uncle. Han Sen raised his peacock crossbow and took aim at the T-Rex's eye once more. Pang! Han Sen fired the bolt at the T-Rex's eyelid once more, but again it blinked and the bolt couldn't pierce through it entirely. But exceeding Han Sen's expectations, Wang Yuheng immediately picked up more pieces of metal to lob at the monster, all the while shouting and screaming. The T-Rex only looked at Han Sen for 1 second before resuming its chase of Wang Yuheng. Little uncle, that's right. You can do it. I have faith in you. Han Sen couldn't fathom the sordid deeds Wang Yuheng must have committed in a past life to be given such bad luck in this one. The aggro he could pull, with such little effort, was astonishing. And now, with Wang Yuheng subject to the T-Rex's pursuit once more, Han Sen got back to searching for the perfect chance of striking the T-Rex's eye. Although it wasn't quick on its feet, the reactions of this super creature weren't too slow. Even with Han Sen taking his best possible shot, the creature always caught the bolts with its eyelid. Brother Han, I am reaching the end of my tether. If you are to slay this oversized doggy, I recommend doing it soon. When Han Sen reached for his quiver again, he was overwhelmed with dread to notice it was empty. They had all been fired, with no damage having been dealt to the beast that had assaulted them. Brave men must shoulder the greatest of deeds. I'm going in. Han Sen knew the bolts were fairly well lodged in the monster's eyelids and thought this would be his only chance. So he took off running towards the monster. Killing the monster was not his priority right now. He wasn't doing this for himself. He knew if he let the monster claim this place for itself, it would only be a matter of time before it chose to wreak havoc on the ice fields far below. Homes and shelters would be burnt to ash, and people would undoubtedly be eaten whenever it fancied a snack. Han Sen didn't want to risk leaving the beast alive. He had exhausted one of his greatest chances of killing it already, so he wanted to push a little further. And even if he could not kill it, he'd at least deal as much damage as he could before retreat. With Wang Yuheng still stealing the spotlight of the T-Rex's attention, Han Sen was able to run beside the creature and effortlessly leap up onto it. With a window of opportunity now open for him, he went in and tried to kick the bolt-laden eyelid. The T-Rex, however, turned around and tried to evade the attack. But as this happened, Han Sen borrowed strength from the air to carry his kick and prepared to batter the eye with his legs 7 times. The T-Rex, failing to dodge the attacks, simply shut its eyelids, thinking it could shield its eyes. But this was exactly what Han Sen wanted. He walloped each of his 7 kicks firmly into the bolts planted on the monster's eyelid. Han Sen's legs were like steel sledgehammers. After 7 strikes, the bolts were malleted deep into the monster's squishy eyeball. The T-Rex blasted one last cry to the sky as blood gushed from its ruined eye. The raven feather bolts, following Han Sen's hits, had become implanted deep in the monster's eye. The T-Rex squirmed in pain as it tried to open its eye. But when it raised its eyelid, it dragged the bolts up with it, ruining its eye further. Now, more blood cascaded from the extra crevices that were cut into the eyeball. Taking advantage of another window of opportunity that had opened for him, Han Sen kicked the beast another 7 times. He was using the skill called 7 Kill, which, when combined with arrow, brought devastating damage upon the monster's other eye. Infuriated, the T-Rex began shooting geysers of flame in all directions. Han Sen could only fly away from it, to avoid being incinerated by the wild flames. Brother Han, that was fine work. Wang Yuan looked delighted. The T-Rex no longer had any vision, and it was in agony. Every time it tried to blink, it dealt itself even greater damage. The T-Rex's talons were so long and thick, it couldn't pull the bolts out of its eyelid, either. The longer it went on, the more the T-Rex panicked. It flapped its 4 flame-wreathed wings in a bid to escape. Han Sen used this time to pick up the bolts that were on the floor. Then he summoned his wings to chase after the T-Rex. This was the first time he had gotten so close to killing a super creature since coming to the second shelter. Unlike the last time with the Deadeye Peacock, which was basically a killsteal, the T-Rex flailed madly in the sky as it continued shooting fireballs from its mouth. The sky was dark, lit up only by its flames. It was a terrifying spectacle to behold. The people down on the ice fields were able to watch the scene unfold, and it frightened those who looked up. No one had ever seen such a scary monster in the ice fields before, so this sort of sight was new to them. Look, someone is chasing after that horrible creature. Someone shouted. Where? Where? It's pretty far off. Of course you can't see it with your eyes. Use a pair of binoculars, old man. They watched as a man chased off a flying T-Rex that breathed fire in the sky. Whoa, it's Leader Han. Holy smokes. He is too powerful. Did Leader Han claim ownership of the metal shelter up there, too, all by himself? He's so handsome. He's so good. The people who watched Han Sen chase away the T-Rex all reeled in shock and admiration. They thought Han Sen was hunting it down. Although the T-Rex had been blinded, it seemed as if it could still distinguish things well. It was able to fly north, towards the ice sea that lay beyond the ice fields. Han Sen followed the T-Rex, thinking of a way he might bring it down for good. The damage inflicted to its eyes was grievous, but it wasn't enough to slay the beast. Still, the visual impairment boded well for Han Sen's battle, as the T-Rex was no longer the threat it once was. This thing's vitality is high. It is obviously well attuned with fire, which means it should be weak to other elements. It would be a difficult fight for a group to take on such a raging beast. But to 1 or 2 well-trained elites, it is not as threatening as the raven, Han Sen thought to himself, observing the beast. The T-Rex resumed spewing fire, but after a few roars, the flames extinguished. Was it running out of fire, or was it just exhausted? Han Sen was happy to see this, so he unlocked his gene lock and used arrow to gain momentum and approach the T-Rex more efficiently. He waited for the monster to roar once more, and when it did, he fired another raven feather bolt into its open mouth. The hard light string of the crossbow flashed quickly, launching the bolt. The power of a super beast soul made the black feather appear as nothing more than a thin black laser. It was a direct hit in the T-Rex's mouth. The T-Rex opened its mouth again to roar, cascading blood as it did. The 10 bolts Hansen fired into its mouth must have dealt a crippling amount of damage. The T-Rex started breathing fire once more, and a creepy mixture of blood and flame gushed out from its mouth, with the occasional black feather. Unfortunately, a few of the raven feathers inside were charred and broken. No longer could they be reused as bolts or converted into daggers. Suddenly, the T-Rex raised its talons and flailed in Hansen's direction. They were so fast and big, it was as if the T-Rex had summoned all the remaining strength in its body for that one strike. It was already too late for Hansen to dodge, and the talons that were coming his way gave him a shock. But with the gene lock open, he didn't let it affect him. He maintained his composure and without even thinking, he summoned his golden armor, gargoyle glyph, and peacock crossbow to block the blow. When the talons met the peacock crossbow, Hansen was sent rocketing downwards, shattering a layer of ice on the icy sea. The splash his body created was massive. Hansen exited the sea coughing blood and shaking from the pain. It felt as if all his organs had been flipped upside down. It's easy to forget how powerful a super creature can be. Such power is frightening. Hansen's heart was shocked. When he opened his mouth, more blood dripped out. If he had not used the peacock crossbow to block the initial strike, he feared he would have been torn apart by the sudden blow. But after the strike, the T-Rex appeared to be even more injured than it had been. It spewed more and more blood down into the sea, coloring it in an inkai, dark red haze. Hansen watched the T-Rex come down and did not dare fight it face to face. He summoned his silver eel and tried to sail away from it. But the silver fox on Hansen's shoulder suddenly roared with a great ferocity of its own. It seemed to have been infuriated by the damage that had just been dealt to Hansen, and then it prickled and sparked with silver lightning, as the sound of rumbling thunder resonated from within it. Like a silver bolt of lightning, the silver fox launched itself into the air, striking the T-Rex that had sought to pursue them. The T-Rex cried out in pain as its body began to produce white smoke. It may have hurt, but the T-Rex was too strong for the silver fox to deal any lasting damage. The T-Rex then decided to halt its pursuit of Hansen and focus on its nearer opponent, the silver fox. Breathing out more streams of fire, it tried its best to incinerate the silver fox into dust. The silver fox was still in the air, gliding backwards and forwards. It continued to cast bolts of silver lightning to attack the T-Rex. The T-Rex was still blind, so its reactions and abilities of perception were far weaker now. It had great difficulty trying to burn the silver fox, which was so small and possessed incredible speed. But still, the silver fox was a juvenile super creature, and its power was nowhere near that of the T-Rex. The effectiveness of the silver lightning wasn't high as a result, despite its constant strikes upon the T-Rex. Hansen continued to clutch his chest as he coughed up more blood. He summoned his berserk sacred blood wings and returned to the air. He was prepared to leave and let the T-Rex go due to his injury, but he hadn't expected the silver fox to fight on its own. This reinvigorated Hansen's hope for victory. The silver fox was not Hansen's real pet, and because Hansen had difficulty controlling it, he didn't treat it as a battle companion. But when the silver fox started fighting, it was far stronger than a person who had unlocked their gene lock. Even Hansen was willing to confess how much better the silver fox was than him. After all, the silver fox had a super creature's fitness. Even juvenile super creatures were stronger than most human evolvers. When the chance arrived, Hansen's heart jumped. Like some sort of god, he flew before the T-Rex in the blink of an eye and dealt one humongous kick to the fiend's left eye. After the kick, Hansen flew far away and dodged the attempted counterattack. The T-Rex's flame-wreathed wings began flapping with greater speed as it tried to escape again. Hansen continued to hold his chest and bear with the pain as he chased after it. This was his best chance of killing a super creature, and he would not let this opportunity pass him by, no matter what. If he missed this chance, he wouldn't know when such an opportunity would roll around again. They chased the T-Rex for another 8 days. On the 8th day, it was unable to keep going and collapsed into the sea. Its giant body dropped into the sea, producing massive waves. Super creature hunted, fire scale T-Rex. The beast's soul has been acquired. The flesh of this creature is inedible, but you may harvest its life geno essence. Consume its life geno essence to obtain a random numeric amount of super geno points, ranging from 0 to 10. Hansen then watched as the huge, lifeless body of the T-Rex faded away. A fiery crystal dropped from its disintegrating corpse. The crystal was beautiful to look at and about the same size as a fist. Hansen quickly went to catch the crystal, but the flames that wreathed it burnt his hand. He brought back his hand and the crystal dropped into the sea. It was like a burning orb of metal dropping into the sea. Its entry into the water was followed by much steam, and the encompassing water began to boil. Holy smokes, how am I supposed to consume life geno essence that's spicy? Han Sen was afraid that after the crystal fell into the sea, another strong creature might come along and eat it. He quickly summoned his peacock crossbow and used it to fish the crystal out of the sea. The life geno essence had not grown colder, despite being submerged in the sea. It was still just as hot. Han Sen observed the fiery crystal delicately perched upon his peacock crossbow. He frowned and commented, "How am I supposed to eat this thing? If I lick it how I did back in the first shelter, I'll end up chewing a roasted tongue." The silver fox was in Han Sen's arms. With its little paws, it attempted to grab the life geno essence. Han Sen stopped it from doing so immediately, as he wanted to dine on the essence all by himself. It was a hard-fought victory, and he wanted to enjoy every morsel of the reward he had earned. But Han Sen soon realized he was wrong. The silver fox was just curious about how the life geno essence looked. It didn't want to eat it. It was like a cat playing with a ball. It used its paws to touch the life geno essence, which then burnt them. After that, it hurriedly gave up its interest in the crystal. "You don't want to eat it." Han Sen put the life geno essence down near the silver fox. Its face looked disdainful and it turned around, refusing to even look at it. The greedy silver fox doesn't actually want to eat this good stuff. Han Sen was quite shocked. Super creature beast soul, gem type. When Han Sen saw the text, he turned to stone. He recalled seeing that title someplace else in the second shelter, but there weren't many out there. He remembered seeing it once on the news but had no clue what it could be used for. Han Sen staggered a little and then summoned the fire scale T-Rex beast soul. All that appeared in front of him was a fist-sized ruby-like gem. Inside the gem, Han Sen could discern a faint image of the T-Rex he had seized the beast's soul from, as if a miniature variant had been encased within. As Han Sen continued looking at it, he was unable to determine what this strange gem was actually capable of. Back in the ice fields, the mystery island had yet to return to the empty. This made Han Sen breathe a sigh of relief. When Han Sen returned to the lofty island, Wang Yuheng welcomed him there with great passion. "Brother Han, you are back. Did you kill the creature?" Wang Yuheng asked Han Sen, with great enthusiasm in his voice. "I thought you'd be able to tell just by looking at my face. Had I killed it, I would have brought its flesh back, wouldn't I?" Han Sen shrugged. "That's okay. I'm sure the opportunity to slay it will arise once more." Wang Yuheng didn't sound disappointed at all. He comforted Han Sen with great concern. This made Han Sen feel slight discomfort instead, as if it were unnatural. He wasn't the sort of person to be intimidated by bad people, but he was the sort to become afraid of nice people. "Brother Han, I have come to believe you and I are meant to be. I have decided to group up with you, a proposition that was sealed, signed, and delivered by the Mistress of Destiny herself. With Team Wang Han reporting for duty, we are sure to produce a prosperous future for the second shelter." Wang Yuheng put his arm around Han Sen's shoulders, discussing a wild future birthed by his fantasies. In Wang Yuheng's eyes, they would one day become a legendary pair that could amass riches and fortunes with the greatest of ease. These childish dreams made Han Sen shudder. After a bit of silence, in which Han Sen was given a moment to think, he asked himself, when did I ever agree to cooperate with him? Having a partnership with this guy might result in a super creature assaulting my shelters every day. This entire time Han Sen had not said a word. But as Wang Yuheng went on and on about some glorious future in which they ruled the entirety of the second shelter, he felt bad about the idea of immediately shutting down the man's deluded visions. But reflecting on his battle with the T-Rex, he realized that Wang Yuheng had helped a good deal. If it wasn't for his impeccable abilities at gaining aggro, Han Sen would not have been able to fire his crossbow bolts into the monster's eye. Han Sen needed someone like Wang Yuheng. But seeing Wang Yuheng wax lyrical about his dreams, he felt as if his input had been wholly ignored or not even asked for. When the Mystery Island landed, the entirety of the ice fields shook. Han Sen had managed to take on and gain ownership over the royal shelter pretty much solo. Plus, people had seen him chase off the fire-scale T-Rex. His reputation across the ice fields increased even more. He had achieved near-legendary status, and people treated him like some sort of god. A lot of people in the ice fields tried to post the news on the Skynet, which was met with negative criticism and proclamations that such a feat was undoubtedly fake. Most simply didn't pay attention, so it didn't really cause that much of a scene in the grand scheme of things. A few days later, Han Sen was starting to regret his acceptance of Wang Yuheng's presence. Ever since he had appeared in his life, nothing had gone smoothly. His favorite chair, which he frequently sat on, suddenly broke. As he was out for a walk one day, a sinkhole suddenly appeared, which he almost fell into. The most far-fetched of accidents imaginable were now affecting Han Sen on a day-to-day basis. For as long as Wang Yuheng was around, the endless misfortune continued. Han Sen had yet to find a way in which he could eat the T-Rex's life geno essence. Eating it as it was would be no different than taking a suicide pill. Han Sen kept the essence in the Crystal Palace while he returned to the Alliance to browse for more information in the community. There was nothing about the life geno essence, so he was still unable to find a way to eat it. But he did find information on gem beast souls. Gem beast souls could be consumed by other beast souls to make the recipient beast souls evolve. Ordinarily, if a sacred blood gem beast soul was combined with a mutant class beast soul, the mutant class beast soul would evolve into a sacred blood beast soul. Does that mean I can use this gem beast soul to evolve any of my sacred blood beast souls into a super beast soul? Han Sen became extremely excited at this prospect. Even if it combined with a mutant class beast soul, it would have to be of a comparable type as well. Otherwise, it would still break. From what he could gather, there was no other way to increase his chance of success. But there were a few posts by experienced beast soul gem infusers that helped to clarify a few things. If it was a wolf element gem beast soul, combining it with a wolf beast soul would yield a much higher chance at success. Of course, this wasn't 100% certified information. And there were still many things humans did not yet know in regards to all this. As Han Sen browsed, he saw a post containing information that had leaked from the third shelter. It said that aside from the type of beast soul, the element mattered as well. If a fire gem beast soul combined with a fire element beast soul, the chance of success would be much higher. If this is how things are, I will need to find a fire element T-Rex beast soul first, Han Sen thought, stroking his jaw. When I went to fight the red scale dragon with Yi Dongmu, it looked just like a T-Rex. Perhaps it really is a T-Rex sacred blood beast soul. If I go kill it, maybe I could get a more useful beast soul. Han Sen browsed for a bit longer, and being unable to find what he ultimately wanted, realized his thoughts were drifting to the red scale dragon. Back in the shelter, Han Sen prepared himself to fight the red scale dragon and try to earn its beast soul. Han Sen left the silver fox behind in the Crystal Palace. If he brought it with him, the red scale dragon would smell it from a great distance away, and run off before it was even a speck on the horizon. He didn't dare return to the goddess shelter, either, as he was still afraid of having any contact with Wang Yuheng. If the man's bad luck happened to infect him, and he failed to obtain the beast soul he desired, Han Sen would be heartbroken. Unfortunately for Han Sen, it was a common occurrence that what he was most afraid of was exactly what he'd end up suffering. Han Sen began climbing the mountain, and his greatest fear was realized. Wang Yuheng was also there, killing monsters. When Wang Yuheng saw Han Sen, he was delightfully surprised. He finished off the creature he was engaged in combat with and enthusiastically ran towards Han Sen. He asked aloud, "Brother Han, have you come looking for me?" "Yeah, sure." Han Sen didn't really know how to respond, thinking of how unlucky, and how unlikely, he was to meet Wang Yuheng here, of all places. "Brother Han, have you heard of what's afoot in the Alliance? It's major, from what I hear." Wang Yuheng's voice had dropped low, as if he was whispering a secret. "What big thing, little uncle?" Han Sen was never really concerned when it came to events in the Alliance, but he asked anyway. Only a few of the high-class Alliance members know about this right now. It's currently on the down low, but I fear it's only a matter of time before it gets announced. Wang Yuheng paused for a bit, inched closer to Han Sen's ear, and said, "Someone has managed to slay that creature in the first shelter." "What creature?" Han Sen's body shook. "That creature that is above the class of a sacred blood creature. It turns out, they're actually called super creatures, and it has shaken the high-class members of the Alliance to the very bone." Wang Yuheng spoke aloud, with envy. After Han Sen heard what he had to say, he felt some relief. Since there were more and more elites in the first shelter, it was only a matter of time before they could kill super creatures. The existence of super creatures becoming well known by humans would be a relief for Han Sen. "Who killed the super creature and how?" Han Sen asked Wang Yuheng. "It was a woman called Jai King from the Jai family. In a way, you are her brother-in-law, but she is not a daughter of Jai Ryuajin. She is only a cousin to your family, but she is far more talented than Jai Ryuajin's daughter. She has already been titled the first genius of the Alliance and a star of hope for the future." Wang Yuheng trailed off for a second with a smile. Then, he shook his head and continued by saying, "But they didn't manage to kill a super creature merely because Jai Ryuajin was so strong. But members of the Wang, Lin, and Zhu families helped out, as well. They also hired many elites, 300, as a matter of fact. They were elites who have not yet evolved but have maxed out their genes. They aided in injuring the super creature for her, and many people are reported to have died. It is a shame such a feat is even more difficult to achieve in the second shelter. The second shelter excludes surpassers, so once we hit that level, we have to immediately leave this place. Otherwise, our bodies will be dealt irreversible damage. It's a shame none of these events take place in the second shelter. I know I'd join in, if such a thing were to happen. Han Sen looked confused and asked, all those people gave their best to kill that super creature and many people gave their lives. Were there any goodies? Why does that Jai King hog all the glory? She was the one who found an injured super creature and she was the one who dealt the final blow. The others were just hired help, sellswords and the like, who were paid beforehand. Anyway, let's get back to business. Why have you come searching for me? I'm going into the mountains to hunt a berserk sacred blood creature. If you aren't busy, you can tag along. This was the only thing Han Sen could say, really. Brilliant. Slaying berserk sacred blood creatures is my favorite pastime. Wang Yuheng was giddy like a child and looked genuinely ecstatic to be able to come. Before long, Han Sen safely arrived at the last place he had seen the red scale dragon. Surprisingly, it had been a journey free from any trouble. The red scale dragon had not vacated the area, and he spotted it resting in the valley. The red scale dragon looked slightly different than the first time he saw it. Its red scales were already crystallized. When watching it from afar, it looked like a giant statue encrusted with rubies. It was beautiful. That is one big chap. Wang Yuheng saw the red scale dragon too and took a deep breath. Han Sen laughed. He looked at Wang Yuheng and told him, little uncle, I'm afraid I am going to have to request your assistance once more. If you would be so kind, I would like you to attract the fiend while I kill it. As payment, I'll let you keep half of its flesh. Accepted. Wang Yuheng nodded, summoned a beast soul, and ran screaming towards the red dragon. He didn't run too far, however. He stopped a good distance from it, scrambled for some rocks beneath the snow, and lobbed them at the creature. The red scale dragon saw its harasser and quickly took off after him, seething with rage. Wang Yuheng led the red scale dragon up and down the slopes of the mountain. Han Sen summoned his peacock crossbow and loaded up his 7 remaining bolts. The red scale dragon was most certainly in berserk mode and a result. Its scales were currently much tougher than the scales of an average sacred blood creature. If he used the raven bolts to pierce the scales, Han Sen feared they wouldn't do much damage to the creature. It was of a monstrous size, after all. So, Han Sen prepared to repeat the tactic that had allowed him to bring down the T-Rex. He took aim at the red dragon's eye. Since the red dragon was not a super creature, unlike his previous foe, Han Sen believed firing his crossbow at its eye was sure to have pegged a bolt directly through its brain. Finding a sound location on the mountain's peak to take his shot, Han Sen waited for Wang Yuheng to draw the red dragon a little closer before he attacked. As the red dragon was led in a circle around the peak, Wang Yuheng reappeared yelling, "Run!" Wang Yuheng was screaming, flailing his arms like a madman towards Han Sen as he ran. Something was most certainly wrong. Han Sen's heart began to race as he pondered what might have gone awry. He thought to himself, what's happening? Surely nothing terrible has happened once again, has it? Behind the red scale dragon was another creature, a massive elephant composed of white bones. The already giant red scale dragon looked like a chew toy before the white bone elephant. The elephant's trunk ensnared the fleeing red scale dragon, lifted it up, and gobbled it up in one whole mouthful. The virgin snow was now splattered with blood. Holy smokes! Han Sen swore in his heart, turned around, and quickly started running. Wang Yuheng truly was born unlucky. Even out here, in the midst of a fight, he had managed to attract the attention of a monstrous super creature. Han Sen regretted the fact that he had not just decided to come alone, as taking on a berserk sacred blood red scale dragon solo was far better than any super creature alternative. Fortunately, the super creature was caught up munching on its draconic snack, which bought Han Sen and Wang Yuheng the enough time to get away. Little uncle, I have a question I would like to ask you, Han Sen gasped out, after reaching a safe place, far from the dangers of the super creature. What would that be? Wang Yuheng was gasping, as well. How did you ever manage to hunt creatures by yourself? Han Sen asked. Wang Yuheng seemed to be a magnet for the most wretched of creatures. To begin hunting a small creature, only to end up being run off by a larger creature seemed to be a regular occurrence, so it was strange to Han Sen that Wang Yuheng had managed to survive for so long. Brother Han, I must confess to you that I am rarely ever able to slay monsters by myself. Even if I do manage to slay a creature, I almost never receive their loot. To get where I am today, I have mostly been carried. Wang Yuheng's face was red as he admitted his embarrassing truth. Han Sen was unsure of how to reply. Fortunately, Yuheng hailed from the Wang family. If he hadn't, he would have had great difficulty carving out an identity and some modicum of prominence for himself. It would have been worse than how Han Sen started out, and chances of survival would be low. For a big elite like Wang Yuheng to need others to help carry him was a pity. It was strange, though. Wang Yuheng was a talented warrior, and in terms of power, the peacock crossbow was the only thing that would give Han Sen an edge if they were ever to duel. Wang Yuheng was almost as good as the queen, and it was a shame he lacked the self-confidence he needed to drive him forward. How about this then, little uncle? I have formed a team composed of elites dedicated to hunting super creatures. If you are interested, I will accept you amongst its ranks. However, if you are to join, you will have to sign a contract. This contract states that you are to adhere to my every command, Han Sen told Wang Yuheng, looking at him. Although Wang Yuheng was an unlucky person, Han Sen thought his uncanny ability to attract super creatures would be a valuable trait for such a team. Han Sen would just need really strong armor to keep Wang Yuheng alive, so he could kite and tank super creatures effectively in battle. Brother Han. Wang Yuheng suddenly jumped in front of Han Sen's face. He grabbed Han Sen's hand, placed it on his own chest, and started to cry. He was so touched, he was unable to speak. Little uncle, if you have something to say then say it. Han Sen quickly snatched back his hand, afraid Wang Yuheng's next question would be a proposition to sleep with him. But again, Wang Yuheng grabbed Han Sen's hand, not wanting to let go. He enthusiastically said, Brother Han, you are a true brother of mine. You are one of the few people who are able to see the good that resides within me. You are the sun in my sky, scattering away the clouds of contempt. You light up my world, Han Sen. Wang Yuheng was genuinely touched. Han Sen pulled the contract out of his pocket and handed it over to Wang Yuheng. Han Sen formulated this contract a while ago while composing a team. This contract was originally designed for the queen, but because she had been so busy in recent times, she had not been able to return to the shelter and sign it. Now that Han Sen had deemed Wang Yuheng a suitable candidate for the team, he thought he might as well give it to him for the time being. Wang Yuheng looked it over and signed it without hesitation. The conditions were, just like Han Sen had said, harsh. It didn't inhibit his eagerness to sign, however, as the terms were still fair. Han Sen looked happy after this. He took back the contract, signed it himself, and provided Wang Yuheng with the copy. Little uncle, you are hereby a part of my team. Han Sen smiled at him. Wang Yuheng, all excitement, asked, Bossman, how many other elites do we have amongst our ranks? Oh, let me see. 2. Just 2. You and I. Han Sen thought it was better not to hide the truth. Finding other powerful people that were not already part of a faction or guild was difficult. He was lucky to have someone who did not already have obligations, and particularly so to have someone who had already unlocked their gene lock. Even though there were many elites who were alone, they were usually invited to big guilds and factions casually, regardless of their status. There, they could reap benefits and continue training. The chances of any random elite joining Han Sen, a person without a particularly outstanding background, was quite slim. Wang Yuheng did not mind this at all. In fact, he was already thinking of a way in which he could aid Han Sen's cause. He then told Han Sen, Bossman, I know someone who is really powerful. He is a friend of mine. Perhaps we can invite him to join the team. Who? Han Sen was always intrigued by someone who was described as really powerful. It was too difficult to hunt super creatures in the second shelter solo, but now, people in the world were aware of the existence of super creatures. Although no one in the second shelter was able to kill them yet, hiring others for the cause wouldn't prove as tough anymore. His name is Lei Hengwu. He may not hail from a family of any particular notoriety or fame, but his family does possess a special skill of sorts. It is called Giant Thunderbolt Sacred Lance. I have seen it in action, and it is wickedly powerful. Han Sen was unable to kill the red scale dragon as he had planned to, due to it being eaten by the white bone elephant. He still needed a T-Rex soul, so he was still determined to find one way or another. Luckily, Lei Hengwu was in a rather large human shelter. Han Sen wanted to take the opportunity to browse the markets and see if he could snag a sacred blood T-Rex beast soul. Zero was clad in a white battlesuit, holding the silver fox. She looked really cute, and even Wang Yuheng said she was the most adorable girl he had ever laid his insatiable eyes upon. Han Sen quickly pulled Wang Yuheng away from her. The last thing he wanted was his creepy uncle getting close with Zero. They had reached the other side of the mountain when Wang Yuheng took the lead, bringing them to Devil's Shelter. There, they met with Lei Hengwu, who had just arrived, himself. Old Lei. Wang Yuheng opened the door to the man's room and started waving to a burly old man who looked like a jaded tower built of steel. Yuheng, why are you here? The strong man, after seeing Wang Yuheng, changed his initial look of displeasure to one of forced happiness. Old Lei, I have come here to look after you. I have recently become a member of a most talented team that is preparing to hunt down super creatures, Wang Yuheng explained, with great enthusiasm drenching every syllable. Lei Hengwu looked surprised. Not about the super creatures, though. He looked at Wang Yuheng with eyes of disbelief and asked, You joined a team that tasks itself with hunting super creatures. Everyone who had ever met Wang Yuheng quickly met the bad luck that followed him, as well. To hunt with Wang Yuheng was almost a guarantee of terrible things happening. Allow me to introduce you to Mr. Bossman Han Sen. He is incredible. He can slay super creatures all by himself. If the super creature we fought had not escaped, we would have been the first to slay one and rob Jai King of her snobbish thunder. Wang Yuheng did not bluff at all about this statement. Han Sen, Lei Hengwu frowned as if he was straining his mind trying to recall if he had ever heard of this person. There is no need to think that hard. Jai Ruojin is Han Sen's father-in-law. While Lei Hengwu hesitated, a knock came from outside the door. A soft and attractive voice sounded from behind it, saying, Is Mr. Lei here? It is Lu Hui who has come to visit. Lei Hengwu was quite surprised. He offered them seats and went to answer the door. The person standing in the doorframe was of a gentle build and gave a relaxed smile. Why is Leader Lu here? The reason Lei Hengwu had actually come to the shelter was so he could join Lu Hui's team. Lu Hui was really powerful and famous amongst the Evolvers. He commanded many strong subordinates and had a background related to the Blue Blood Special Forces. His prestigious background and standing was why Lei Hengwu considered joining him first. I hereby invite you to join my team. Do you accept? Lei Hengwu was petrified. Although he had already guessed this was the reason he had shown up at his door, it was another thing altogether to hear such a request come from the man himself. Han Sen, I have heard of your name. I am Lu Hui. Lu Hui walked in front of Han Sen and presented his hand to him, smiling. You are the Blue Blood Devil leader. I have heard of you, also. Han Sen reached out his hand to shake Lu Hui's and felt the strength of the man's fingers. If it is possible, I would appreciate your presence in my team, as well. No matter the cost. Provided you are willing to join, I am willing to accept any of your own terms and conditions. Lu Hui asked with genuine sincerity, looking at Han Sen. I thank you for your invitation, but you took the words right out of my mouth. I was about to tell you the same thing, Han Sen said. They both eyed each suspiciously for a second and then looked away. Lu Hui smiled and responded, Mr. Lei, whichever team you end up selecting will be a fine choice. Leader Han, I must apologize. The reason I came to this shelter was in the hope of joining Leader Lu's team. He has also been gracious enough to offer me an abundance of benefits and gifts if I joined him. That's okay. Han Sen smiled. He stood up and prepared to leave with those who accompanied him. Wang Yuheng wanted to say something else to Lei Hengwu, but Han Sen stopped him. Leader Han, I hope one day we will be able to work together, Lu Hui said with a serious tone when Han Sen walked past him. We will. Han Sen did not hate this man. It was a competition and he lost out, fair and square. They left Lei Hengwu's house, and with a depressed look and tone of voice, Wang Yuheng said, That old Lei is no good. He didn't show me any respect. Han Sen smiled and said, I think Lei Hengwu is afraid of you and that's why he didn't want to join our team. How can you blame me for this? It's all because our contractual benefits are worse. Wang Yuheng said this, but in his heart, he did truly fear that it was his own presence that made Lei Hengwu unwilling to join. It will be too difficult to pull people away from big factions, no matter what we do. How about we instead walk around the market? It didn't really matter to Han Sen that they were unable to enlist Lei Hengwu. The most important reason for him to be at this shelter was the potential purchase of a sacred blood T-Rex beast soul. From what Han Sen could see, although Lei Hengwu was strong, he was simply strong. That was it. There was nothing inherently special or unique about him, and so Han Sen did not consider him a primary choice. Anyway, even if he was a really useful person, Han Sen wasn't willing to treat any team member better than the others. He wanted everyone to be of equal importance. He walked around many beast soul stores and eventually found a suitable beast soul. The T-Rex beast soul was a rare type, too. It was a black T-Rex beast soul. Its name was Rex Spike. It was a heavy metal weapon that was about 2 meters long. From the booklet provided, the weapon looked like a giant umbrella that was folded. The end was sharp and it had a hilt at the bottom. It was a violent and visceral heavy metal weapon. It was 2 meters long and the handle was 50 centimeters long. The front was sharp and serrated, and from afar, one would guess it was a strange greatsword or medieval lance, but not quite. It was weird, yes, but it looked like a cruel and merciless weapon. God, Buddha, Goddess, Mary, Jesus, and Mohammed, bless me with your divinity. I only have this one super gem beast soul. Throughout the entirety of my life, this is the only one I have ever managed to get. So, please, help me. Hansen's heart prayed intently to every god and religious deity he could think of. Inside the gem, he watched the image of the mini fire scale T-Rex be attracted and absorbed into an image of a black T-Rex. Then, the black T-Rex roared to the sky as its body underwent a transformation of some kind. The black scales of the beast became dark red. The body began to smoke and the talons increased in sharpness and thickness. Rex Spike has successfully combined with Fire Scale T-Rex Gemstone. The evolution has provided you a flaming Rex Spike Super Beast Soul. Hansen almost jumped up in happiness. He quickly summoned the flaming Rex Spike and immediately saw that it had increased in length. It was now certainly longer than 2 meters. It was colored a dark red and encircled in an aura of flame. The weapon now looked even more wretched and cruel, like some violent beast. Hansen swung it twice. He randomly hit something, which spawned a beautiful array of sparks. Hansen really liked it. It was a super heavy weapon and its presence was intimidating. In the future, he would have no problem tearing the bodies of smaller monsters apart. If I shoved this big guy up the asshole of a super creature, they'd feel awesome. Without hesitation, Hansen fed a black crystal to the flaming Rex Spike. He wanted to make it as strong as possible and try to push it up to a berserk super beast soul. If he did that, it would be even easier for him to kill a super creature. After the flaming Rex swallowed the black crystal, a strange spirit exited its body and encompassed it. Hansen had never evolved a super beast soul before, so he was not sure how long this process would take. Hansen did not evolve the Deadeye Peacock yet because he had been using it often and he was not sure how long the evolution process would take. Therefore, he did not feed it a black crystal. Now he was willing to let the flaming Rex Spike evolve first, since he still had the Peacock crossbow. Hansen also wanted to find a Hyper Geno art that was suitable for his future use of the flaming Rex Spike, while it continued to evolve. The weapon could not be used as a sword or a lance, therefore, it was difficult to find a Hyper Geno art that suited it. Hansen was overjoyed at the successful combination. He decided to walk around with Zero for a while longer, buying her some new clothes and snacks as they went. The silver fox was lying on Hansen's shoulder while Zero cuddled the pet Meowth. The contrast of black and white pets side by side was a charming sight. Those pets are so beautiful. Honey, look. A woman with big boobs pointed at Hansen in delightful surprise. I will buy it. The man near her was really calm, and when he softly spoke the sentence, the woman became ecstatic. Oh, honey, you are so good. The woman clutched the man's arms and kissed him on the cheek. Friend, how much for these pets? The man walked before Hansen with a prideful stride. Which one are you buying? Hansen asked, blinking. I would like them both. The man looked at the woman near him. He puffed his chest and spoke with a raised voice, as if to signify the wealth he possessed. Ordinarily, pet beast souls weren't very expensive. The expensive variants were the high-class pet beast souls that were able to do combat. He saw that Hansen's pets were so small and cute, and naturally assumed they couldn't do combat. It was because of this that he didn't think they would cost much. If you want them both, I'll give you 30% off. At the low price of 7 billion, Hansen was in a good mood, so he was willing to take the time to joke with the pompous fellow. A big place like the Devil Shelter sold sacred blood beast souls for 100 to 200 million. If it was just a sacred blood pet, it'd be much cheaper, around the dozen million range. 7 billion. You think that's a super pet or something? The man scoffed, and it was obvious he was aware of the existence of super beast souls. You're right, Hansen said in his heart. But what his mouth actually said was, although this is not a super pet, it has been with me for a very long time. I like it a lot. Unless you cough up the 7 billion, I won't sell. The man madly pointed at Hansen with his finger. He then said something that shocked Hansen. Fine. I'll buy them for 7 billion. Hansen looked at the man with uncertain eyes, not sure whether he was being serious or if he was merely joining in with the jest. 7 billion was not a small amount, and generally, even the richest of people never carried such money around with them. For that price, are you certain? Hansen, still looking, asked the man. Of course I am, the man responded, with absolute confidence. Friend, might I have a word with you? The guy had a peculiar face as he approached. What? You don't want to buy them anymore? Hansen was cracking up with laughter. No. Is that what you really think? I have a different proposition, that's all. How about if I give you 50 million, you lend me the pets for no more than 3 days. I will return them to you in 3 days, without a single hair on their furry coats having been brought harm. The man smiled. Friend, if you don't believe that I, Lin Mei, will take good care of it, then believe in Lin Feng. He is my little brother. We have a contract together, so fear not. Lin Mei patted his puffed-up chest. Lin Feng, who? Han Sen acted as if he didn't know the person, with a puzzled look. You really don't know who I am. Lin Mei was genuinely surprised, but after a while, he smiled and said, well, it's fine if you don't know me. Just know that I am a trustable fellow, okay? Do you know Tang Zhenliu? Han Sen had to ask, as the person before him really did look like Lin Feng. Of course I know him. He's my little brother's best buddy. They even wear identical, matching pants together. They're inseparable. Do you know him, too? Lin Mei asked in return. Then we aren't strangers. I am a good friend of Tang Zhenliu. In Han Sen's heart, however, he thought, I can't believe Lin Feng has a brother like this. I'm not sure if they're real brothers, though, or just cousins. Hey, that's not very fair. You said 2 for 7 billion. Now you're increasing the price even more. I am too fond of them to part with them so easily. If you're still determined to buy them, the black one can be bought for 7 billion. The little white fellow is not for sale. Well, that matters very little to me. Money runs like tap water for me. Very well, I will accept the black one for 7 billion. I will buy the white one for 7 billion as well. The only thing that concerns me is the happiness and contentment of my wife. I will spend as much as I must to keep her smiling. Oh, darling, you are so wonderful. The woman fawned and kissed Lin Mei. I already told you, only the black one is for sale. This little white ruffian is mine alone. Han Sen, in his little show, was adamant about only going for the sale of Meowth. Eventually, Lin Mei conceded and purchased it. The woman, while holding Meowth in her hands, was beaming with joy and didn't complain at all. Ever since, a yarn was spun from the Devil's Mountain. It was a tale that recited the desperate lengths a little man would go to please a woman. This sorry man was said to have bought a useless pet cat for the whopping sum of 7 billion. As they continued walking down the street, a commotion of some sort seemed to be occurring further down. Many evolvers were running down towards the gate of the shelter. Wang Yuheng quickly started asking about what was going on, to which someone responded a powerful creature had emerged from the Devil's Mountain and brought ruin to 3 different shelters. Now, it had come here. Lu Hui had issued a command, instigating his men to rally for combat and halt the advance of the creature. Quickly, many evolvers amassed and marched in unison beyond the walls of the shelter, out to the trail the monster rampaged along. Lu Hui had already gotten there with his own little regiment, but they hadn't started their attack yet. If Lu Hui takes this threat so seriously, surely it must be a super creature, Han Sen thought. Then, he turned to Wang Yuheng and told him, we should go check it out, too. They exited town, and when they reached the plains of battle, countless evolvers were gathering. There were also other people in their midst, who seemed to have arrived just so they could enjoy the coming spectacle and watch the battle with glee. After walking a dozen miles, they heard the trumpeting of a loud elephant. Han Sen said to himself, is that the white bone elephant from the Devil's Mountain? The same thought coursed through Wang Yuheng's mind. They both turned to look at each other with a look fright on their faces. The white bone elephant was far too terrifying a foe, and in one mouthful, it had gobbled up a berserk sacred blood creature. It was undoubtedly a monster from the upper echelon of super creatures. Lu Hui was quickly realizing that the bone elephant was indestructible. He called for his archers to fire arrows at it from another direction, in an attempt to at least draw its attention away from its current course, so it could be led away from the devil's shelter it currently was galloping towards. If it reached the shelter would be destroyed. The mounted bowmen were directly under Lu Hui's command. They started provoking the bone elephant with a tidy formation that shifted and weaved its way to the accompaniment of a drumbeat. Near Lu Hui, bannermen often shouted and gave commands to precisely position the soldiers. Han Sen watched the battle unfold from a mountain peak. He sighed and said, that is a real battle commander. I can effectively command around 10 people. But for a fight like this, with 20,000 soldiers hinged upon my fingertips and vocal cords, there is no way I could keep up. This Lu Hui is a remarkable character. Han Sen observed Lu Hui's command intently. No wonder he is the Blue Blood Special Forces leader. With his command power, he is by far the most talented. It is no wonder he is able to control the entire faction. Han Sen complimented Lu Hui. But Wang Yuheng, who was near Han Sen, then said, if you want to expand the goddess army, Lu Hui and the person in the north will be your greatest enemies. You are right, and as powerful as Lu Hui is, I can only suspect that the person in the north is of comparable might. Expansion of my army might prove to be a controversial problem. Han Sen paused for a brief while, but then smiled and continued to say, but we are separated by the Devil's Mountain. It's only a matter of time before this hurdle between shelters is conquered. But still, I suppose it is too soon to think about such matters. All of a sudden, the bone elephant trumpeted loudly. It took off, uncaring for the hard rain of arrows that tickled it. Now Lu Hui is in trouble. The bone elephant has taken off in the direction of Devil's Shelter. Wang Yuheng furrowed his brow. But Lu Hui did not panic. He was as composed as ever. He rallied his bannermen to his side and had them issue a few commands. Suddenly, a few evolvers lined up beside him. They ran towards the bone elephant, and with their speed, you could tell they were not ordinary evolvers. They had unlocked their gene locks, at the very least. Oh golly, the elephant looks as if it's about to throw a tantrum. Wang Yuheng screamed in fear. Han Sen took a closer look and saw the bone elephant's eyes turning red. That color of red became a physical haze that swirled itself around the bones which, in turn, changed their color, too. Oh snap. This fight is about to get dirty. Han Sen was shocked, too. If the bone elephant was turning berserk, it would become a berserk super creature. With the increased speed and power it would earn, there would be no way for the riders down below to kite it as they previously had. They would be squished into jelly, forming a river of blood. Lu Hui took notice of this sudden, frightening change, as well. His face finally showed a flicker of emotion and a blue aura of light emerged from his body. He summoned a lance and threw it towards the bone elephant. Peng! With a flash of blue light, the lance struck one of the bone elephant's ears. It did not break anything, but the creature did feel pain. It trumpeted aloud in madness and charged at Lu Hui. Lu Hui was shouting at his army, commanding them to assist as he took supremacy in leading the bone elephant off into the wilds. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and enable notifications so you don't miss the next chapter.